Welcome everyone. I'm Ryan Herbst, Chief Strategist at unifiedcommunications.com, and I'd like to welcome you to a special online event focused on ways that you can add ideation, whiteboard, and collaboration to your Teams rooms. And I'm joined by an all-star cast today. Brent Johnson, Meeting Room Global Black Belt. Still, by the way, Brent, the coolest title ever, never gets old. We've got Jimmy Vaughn, Partner Technical Specialist, just made it, Jimmy. It's last minute as these come, but I can always count on you, my friend, and so glad that you're joining. And Jacob Fisher, who is a Senior Strategist for Meeting Rooms and Devices here at unifiedcommunications.com. And I love these events. This is like hanging out with friends, and we got a rock star cast here and a really fun topic. So yeah, Brent, Jimmy, Jake, this is, again, I think a super relevant topic. This is where a lot of organizations are struggling on the hybrid side. A lot is working. One of the things that is particularly challenging is ideation and collaboration and brainstorming and some of the things that really are harder when we're disconnected, and we got to leverage technology to help kind of mitigate some of those challenges. And so I'm pleased to have you here as we parse through this really important topic today. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. One, I'll say we are, as always, I would say particularly ambitious in terms of what we're trying to pull off today. There's a lot of demo and a lot of moving parts, and so forgive us if any piece of that goes wrong, but I think it's going to be valuable, exciting, and should go fine. We have reserved some time at the end of the event for Q&A, so please use the comments section on the LinkedIn Live page for the event to post any questions that you have. We'll make sure that we try to answer as many of those as possible. If we can't, we'll follow up with you with some, and we'll reply back into those comments post-event. And with that, let's dive in. So Jimmy, Brent, Jake, we're talking about, again, ideation, whiteboard, and enhanced collaboration. Just mentioned that this is an area that people are struggling with hybrid, and we can see this in the data. This is one of the reasons that people are saying we got to bring people back to the office, and they're making kind of these big tectonic decisions around some of the pieces of hybrid that are possible to solve. We certainly know there's nothing better than getting everybody into the room. Part of this is giving them that great experience and the right tools when they're there. We also want to make sure that for the folks that can't be there, they're a part of this as well. And so, yeah, let's talk about some of the best practices today. And I thought we'd start just by talking about the room before we get into the tech side, because there's plenty to parse through there. Let's talk about when you're thinking about a room where we're really trying to encourage people to do more than just sit down and have an audio and video experience. We want them to get up and to be creative. And we're thinking specifically about these particular types of tasks. And you design this room differently than you would a traditional room where we're thinking about just across the table engagement. So yeah, I don't know, Brent, I don't know if you want to kind of kick us off on this one as we talk about, we're looking at some of these designs here. These are some Microsoft designs that are part of both kind of internal. Some of these are kind of internal designs. Some of these are reference designs, archetypes for public consumption. But yeah, what are some of the things that you think about if we're trying to design a flex space or a collaborative space?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, so I mean, these are great examples. And the thing that we look at, when creating a space like this is how are we going to do it in a way that allows people, like you mentioned, to get up and get to the information, but have control over that room and that space, right? And also making sure that it's the best experience, not just for the people in the room, but for the people remotely, right? So that they're all, able to see and be heard and really feel like they're equal, right, in the experience. And so you create these spaces. I mean, all of them, you can see some of our signature rooms, like in the bottom right and the top middle there, and with coordinated join, that ability to bring in the hub kind of as this premier device or a touch device to kind of be, hey, this is my presentation easel over here, right? And so, yeah, it's definitely things to consider. Make sure just from space planning and furniture that you have things in the right place and people feel comfortable using the technology.
Yeah, makes sense. Jake, some thoughts around as you're thinking. I know you take customers, through this process a lot around some of the things to
Yeah,
think about. What are some of the areas that you want to highlight around space design?
for sure. As you look at like any of these designs, notice the space in front of the hub. Think of it like the action zone. It's like a place that people can go up and use the device. You'll notice also the seating. You have some different options, making it comfortable for people to sit, stand, work with the device, but move in between. People will be working with the device, maybe taking turns with the touch interface. So that's always important. The one I always bring up, an example, is a lot of people want to get one of these and put it in their traditional conference room. Think about the space and the furniture there. Don't go in, replace the front room display just with the service hub and you have 3 feet there and a credenza you have to lean over. Like really think about having an open kind of action zone in the space.
Really good points, Jake.
Yeah, Jimmy, anything we didn't cover here? But I mean, some of this just gets down to some of the specifics, like, you might want a mount that's motorized with height control, for accessibility and other reasons. And yeah, I think the furniture is certainly important, but yeah, this is just a different thought. We're trying to get people out of their seats versus just build this kind of super comfortable, environment where, we're trying to sit down.
Yeah, and Jake, I think you hit the nail on the head. When we talk about designing rooms, we really have that first question: how are you going to use the room? What is the purpose of this room? Are we just meeting, or are we truthfully collaborating? I see every single room type that we have on the display here is all about, hey, we're going to collaborate in this room, not just meet inside of the room. And one of the great things, Ryan, I think, is only 1 out of the 6 pictures that we have here has an analog whiteboard. I think
Right.
we have to start looking at the digital whiteboard, and we've got to start looking at how do we take these things? Because while we look at the way that we used to meet beforehand and the way that we used to do things pre-pandemic, yeah, the analog whiteboard was great. I could go up. And you know what? So many people are still used to that pen and the whiteboard surface itself, and they don't want to get away from that. And that's one of the challenges that we've had in the past with some of the digital whiteboarding solutions is those pens would go walking. And when those pens went walking, you lost the ability to do things. But I think we've really moved into an era that is new, that is exciting. And as people go back to work, we've got the opportunity to really re-engage them in this conversation about how are we going to do this whiteboard. And I think you talked about it before, Ryan. We're going to do some demos, and we're going to show you some of these experiences on this new whiteboard experience. And if you're not able to take advantage of some of these inside of at least some of your Microsoft Teams rooms, I think you're really leaving sort of collateral on the table because, as you said, Brent, our signature Microsoft Teams rooms with that Surface Hub on the wall that's over there, giving you the ability to go over and whiteboard. But even the one that's on the bottom left, that's just a flex space. And okay, we're going to have these scheduled meetings, but we're also going to have these scheduled impromptu things where we just launch a whiteboard and we go into exactly how it is, all the way up to the one that's in the center on the top there that has that higher level of meeting people that can still be seen from the camera and still give you that signature experience, but also takes the analog whiteboard and the digital whiteboard in space. Jacob, you hit it on the head. Where are we going to actually engage with that digital whiteboard? We need that space to be able to do things, but we don't want to commit that space to, this is always going to be here. So we've got those ability to actually have carts. And maybe the Surface Hub isn't the right one. Maybe some other devices that are more compatible with the budget on some of these budget-friendly rooms from our other partners might be the solution that you want to bring in. So there's all of these questions that now come into play, and you think about it, and you think, well, I just came in asking for a Microsoft Teams room. No, you didn't. No, you did not. There's all these opportunities that really come into play into some of these advanced rooms that we have to solve prior to saying, okay, we can Teams enable that room.
Jimmy, as always, that was an artful segue into our as we progress to talk a little bit about the tech. And so, we talked about, I guess, the room, certainly important. And then there's certainly technology that plays a part in this. And there's quite a few ways to get there. And I think this is an area that's been particularly confusing for customers. But we know that this Teams ecosystem is broad and vast. And it's a significant advantage for customers because we can fine tune and find the right items, but it could be a little bit overwhelming if you're kind of new to this, or if you don't have the guidance of folks who are net deep in this day in and day out, like the folks on this meeting webinar today. So let's kind of talk through it again. this could be, there are quite a few ways to get here. This could be, as you kind of alluded to, there is a Teams room on Android-based devices that have integrated touch displays, cameras, kind of all in one. We can think about Surface Hub as a standalone device, as a meeting appliance, and it has a particular role that we're going to talk about. We can also talk about the Surface Hub plus a Teams room on Windows, combination of the two together in this coordinated meetings experience that we're going to talk about. We may even get Jake to show us a little demo of it. And so, yeah, would love everybody's perspectives as we go through this, because again, I think this is an area where there's a lot of choice, and with a lot of choice can come either some confusion or paralysis, and we don't want you to hesitate. This is again a piece of hybrid that just is a big opportunity, because it's what's becoming really clear, and just to jump up to 30,000 feet for a second, is that hybrid is by far a superior model to either being all remote or all in person. But just by saying we're hybrid, and it doesn't necessarily make it all happen in terms of getting all the value out of it. And this is a big part of it. Again, this is one of the areas that when you look at the pros of in-person work, that type of collaboration, ideation, creativity, that is a little bit harder as we break this thing apart, but it also doesn't even work in person if we don't have the right tools. I mean, the analog whiteboard, that stuff. So yeah, let's dive in, and we'll start with kind of the newest entrant, Teams room on Android devices with an integrated touch display. This today would be Neatboard and Yalick Meeting Board, but we have a new entrant, D10, that's coming to this very, very soon. All of these are all-in-ones, and the compute, the MTR Android compute is built in. There's camera, there's audio, there's AI. These are full Teams room experiences, and they can have an optional center of table controller, which is exciting. So you can have a sit-down traditional Teams room experience, but you also can get up and leverage the touch-enabled capabilities for things like Whiteboard. And so some of what makes these exciting, one, as you mentioned, Jimmy, it's a really low price point. So they start, they're budget friendly, 65 to 86 inch. These are the options that are in market today in terms of size. And again, as I mentioned, you could use this as a traditional kind of seated room. It's not just a collaboration space, but it has that touch enabled capability with Microsoft Whiteboard. Customers that are using these today are able to have either of those experiences. And the cameras that are inside these devices are using the type of AI and the full capabilities that we see inside of a Teams room. So that segmenting and speaker tracking, a lot of that goodness today, as well as the kind of future of those cameras in the Teams room story, with IntelliFrame. All of that is capable with these devices. Super easy to deploy. You manage them through the Teams Pro portal, and so these are some of the capabilities. Microsoft Whiteboard is available on these devices as either a walk up and use experience, or you can share. A whiteboard can be shared inside of a Teams meeting. I think it's important here, though, to mention that some of the whiteboard features that rely on a browser or on OneDrive, or some of the things that you see on the desktop client or the Surface Hub, aren't available on these Teams room on Androids. They do provide a whiteboard experience. It's powerful, but it's not as premium and full featured as what you see when you bring Surface Hub in. We'll talk about that in a moment. So this is great, I think, for organizations. Yeah, they're looking for low cost. They want something super easy to deploy. They want this to be a Teams room solution and to have access to Microsoft Whiteboard kind of basic feature set. Sorry, that was a lot, but feel free, anyone who wants to kind of chime in on that. Otherwise, I thought Brent could take us through kind of Surface Hub as a standalone device.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and jump over to that real quick. So when you think of Surface Hub, and Jake's going to do a full demo here, but I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about this kind of walk up and use experience. And so this is where you're walking in. There's a Surface Hub, and Jimmy, I was going to ask, when you use an analog whiteboard, did you have to go through special training to learn how to use that?
It's amazing the amount of training that an analog whiteboard takes, because you just have to walk up and you have to use it. And that's one of the great things about so many of the solutions that we have. It's not much more training than that.
Exactly.
It's not training, but it's been a lot of counseling.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's the thing that we're trying to create here is that experience is you just want to be able to walk up and use this device, and it's just whiteboard. And so a very simple menu here. If you want to do an ad hoc Teams call, you choose that. If you want a whiteboard, you can do that. If you want to cast your device to the Surface Hub, you can do that very simply. The other thing too is, hey, you have a presentation in this room. I brought a thumb drive, and you can see my PowerPoint kind of behind there already. But we have the full complement of Microsoft Office programs here as well, right? Or we also support progressive web apps and universal apps from the store. So, I mean, you can see here that I've got Cisco WebEx and Zoom in here as progressive web apps, and even Uber, because, you never know when you want to order an Uber from your Surface Hub, right? And Jake's going to go into signing in as yourself a little bit later, so I'm not going to get into that from here. But just that simplicity of just, hey, walk up and use. You're going to launch your whiteboard, and we're going to iterate on that whiteboard right here and now. So just that ease of use. It's launching a whiteboard. I changed the background a little bit here, so if you're doing some engineering things, again, the graph paper, really nice experience, and just easy tools. You want to highlight something here and just bring that to the fore, and a great set of tools. Again, I'm not signed into this, but if I want to be able to email whatever I did out, I can export it as an image or a PDF. Do some ink to shape. I can change the format of my background. And again, I'm not really doing a demo here, but really some simple things. Easy to do, right? Go full screen on that, and then I've got my presentation already set up here. So we'll just go from the beginning. And so just from a presentation standpoint, you can kind of see how easy that was just for me to launch my presentation. We can go through this. Surface Hub, we have two sizes, right? We have the 85-inch and the 50-inch device. These are great devices. We also have two cameras now. So we've got a great Hub 2 smart camera that we've added to the portfolio here. And you can see the beautiful stands that we have, the Roam stands from Steelcase. But, microphone built in, camera built in, really easy experience here. The other nice thing, too, is when you're in a PowerPoint, I can actually ink right over everything here. And that ink stays with my presentation. So if I actually, and I'm just using my finger to swipe across the screen to change slides, you can see that ink stayed on the other page there. So just again, not to go through a demo here because Jake's going to give us that, but it's just a beautiful device. It's got this coated anti-glare screen, and so just the things that we thought through when we built this device. That, hey, you got to think about glare. You got to think about what's the feeling when you touch this device. It's really a premium experience from that standpoint. Again, here's our 50-inch device, and so on and so forth. And you got your inputs. The other thing too is just the flexibility, right? Of Core i5 processor in this unit, but as we update and upgrade in the future, it's just a cartridge swap, and so you have those things that you're just used to from that standpoint. So again, I don't want to go into a whole litany here of things, but you kind of get the idea of this just easy walk up and use a digital experience. And so just from that standpoint, I'm going to pass it back over because, again, I don't want to
makes sense.
take a lot of time there to get into a full demo because I know Jake's going to do a great job there, but you get the idea. Just easy walk up and use experience.
Thanks, Brett. And I think it's important to note that with Surface Hub, this is going a lot further than just Whiteboard. So one, it's bringing a full-featured kind of a premium experience around Whiteboard. It goes further than any of the other options that we have in this category. But as you shared, this thing runs apps, and it has a browser, and it can run progressive web apps and Windows Store apps. And so this is in terms of being able to create in the room, not just have a meeting and not just use Whiteboard, but we want to actually create things together and collaborate. This is a really interesting device. There's a battery option, for it. It can be really mobile. hopefully one of the things I'm hoping we land in this is that for most customers, this isn't really a decision on, do I buy a Teams Room on Android device? Are we going to put that in every room, or do we put Surface Hub in every room, or do we put Teams Rooms with, a Surface Hub? This is probably a mix of all three of these options that most organizations would want to embrace, because based on budget, based on what you're trying to do, but certainly in some percentage of your rooms, you want that full ability to create stuff together. And so, the ability to log into this thing and get access to my meeting history and OneDrive and file history, this is a very different experience. And again, I think we have to say, yes, it's a meeting appliance, but it goes a lot further than that. And that has a place in kind of the hybrid ecosystem.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure.
All right. So last of the three options that we wanted to kind of parse through today, let's talk about this combination of when you take a Teams room on Windows and you pair that with a Surface Hub using this experience that we call coordinated meetings. And while there's no physical connection between these, this is a really exciting option. And so, and Jimmy, Jake, I know, Jake, you're going to do a little demo for us on kind of the coordinated meetings experience. But Jimmy, I'd love to get just your kind of take on where this fits, because this is kind of bringing the power of a couple of these concepts together. And one of the things, just to kind of get you started, that I thought we wanted to make sure we share is just how kind of specialty spaces, large spaces, like, some of the other devices are constrained just by their screen size. They go into a lot of spaces, but if once we get beyond what we can do with a with a single display, a 50 or an 86 or an 85-inch display. But yeah, give us kind of thoughts around the power of taking a Teams Room on Windows and a Surface Hub and bringing them together in a space.
I think it really lends itself to one of the four important pillars of Microsoft Teams Rooms. Remember, one of the four pillars is easy to use for all. We're all in the conference room space. We all know how difficult the technology is to actually decide to put in it and install and do everything inside of the conference room. That technology is hard, and rooms are hard. The reason why the four of us are on this call right now is because to help share some of the information about rooms are hard. So when you take that pillar of easy to use for all, that lends itself tremendously to this coordinated meeting style, because what needs to happen inside of a meeting room is I need to hit that single touch join, and not does only the speakers, the microphone, and all of the technology that's inside of the room have to come together, but now my collaboration device has to come together as well. And I shouldn't have to struggle with, hey, where do I go? I have to walk over and I have to do something. I mean, as Brent was showing, it's really easy to walk up to that Surface Hub and start a PowerPoint and do all of those things. But why, if I'm inside of a meeting room, why should I even have to do that? Why shouldn't the technology itself automatically know that, hey, I've started a Microsoft Teams meeting, and what am I going to use that Surface Hub for? I'm probably going to use it for whiteboarding. So let me take away the complexity of needing to do this and then needing to do that and just launch everything into that meeting itself. And now the Surface Hub is a whiteboard experience that I can walk over to. And Brent, you said it before. What do I have to do for training? Well, I have to go over and I just have to grab the pen and now I write on it and I go do these things. So that's really where the Teams Room and the coordinated meeting goes to, is let's take all of that technology in and it's a little bit more fluid than any other one of these other solutions. And like you said, if I have a big room, maybe I've got that projector that actually has the front of room screen. Well, how am I going to interact with things? How am I going to do things inside of this divisible room that I have? Well, now with a Surface Hub, I could probably not only whiteboard, but I could also have my PowerPoint in the front of the room that's also on the meeting room on a bigger screen and advance the slides and do things like that. So there's all of these opportunities that come into play with something as simple as coordinated meeting and all the technology knowing about each other.
I like to call it CEO simple. No offense to any CEOs out there, but you got to make it so that you could walk in and use it, and it's a tool, right?
That's it.
Yeah. So this gives us that ability to have a full Teams Room experience, kind of fine-tuned for the room. You put the cameras you want, you put the audio, you kind of bespoke design this any way you want. But then we bring that goodness of not just whiteboard, but that full Surface Hub experience, into that mix. And so this is exciting. And again, I think we've got, as we size up these three options, hopefully this is helping folks get a better understanding of when and where So this would be used. And this Teams Room experience, which is on the Teams Room on Android device, the Surface Hub is a Teams Room. It is again different in the sense that with this thing you can really create work, you can log in, you can do all these things, but it's a little bit different. It doesn't show front row. It doesn't show some of the things that we have in the Teams Room experience. And this Teams Room on Windows plus Surface Hub brings all of these worlds together. So Jake, could you take us through a brief demo of the coordinated meetings experience?
I can, yeah. So you probably saw behind me as I've been talking a room that looks similar to some of the layouts we showed before. So it's actually my home lab that I've set up here with a little bit of OBS magic to kind of show you how it works together. So like Jimmy was mentioning before, Teams Room set up in the space, you get all the benefits of Teams Rooms that we know and love. Console at the center, geared towards people sitting there. Here I'm showing a 21:9 display, not a requirement for a setup like this. Really, whatever kind of meeting space you're going into, single display, dual display, or we really want to show 21:9 to show a little bit of front row as well. But then, what I have is Surface Hub added to this room. And as Jimmy mentioned, no physical connection required between the two. It's really just a trust relationship that's set up between the Teams Room and the Surface Hub. Really just need admin settings to either go in there from the device itself, or you can set it up remotely, Teams Admin Center. And then have some options here on how you want the audio and video to be set up in the space. So one is we have the Teams Room designed for audio for the space. What we would choose the Teams Room to handle the audio for us. And from the Surface Hub, we'd have a toggle option there to say, have the Surface Hub when it's in this room, not join the audio piece. But then we also get the benefit of being able to use both cameras in the space. So we're using that front of room camera, capturing the people at the space, take advantage of things like the intelligent camera of that. But then you also get the camera from the Surface Hub as well. So when someone is over and using the Surface Hub, people remotely are getting like two views here. To see anyone sitting at the table, and they can clearly see anyone who's standing in front of the Surface Hub joining. So I have a meeting set up here. We can kind of show kind of what that looks like. Again, you have the console here that's going to have your meetings. Users can walk up to the table like they're familiar with, tap to join there. But they have the option as well on the hub to go and tap to join. Kind of beauty of the hub, if the hub itself is invited, you have the meetings kind of shown over there on the side. As Brent was mentioning, though, if you're signed into the hub, you can also tap to join the meetings that just you yourself are invited to. I'm already signed in on mine, so I won't walk through the steps of that, but simple process to sign in, just like any Windows device you would. And so really option of the user where they want to tap join from. I'm going to do it from the hub here to show you that example. We'll see. Actually, have a few colleagues that have joined as well. So you see, Hub joins, and then right behind it, Surface Hub joins as well. So there, people seated at the table have that awesome front row view. Zoom back a little bit. You can see the chat going on the side over there. All the people that are joining with us. And then we also have the option to add Whiteboard to the session. Let's do that real quick. And again, this can be added from either place. We're working from the Surface Hub, just like you normally would, bring in your applications. See, there's some of our folks that are in the meeting joining there. A little bit of whiteboarding going on, and then have the option as well, kind of a nice feature, to select if you want to show that same whiteboard at the front of the room. So giving people kind of dual view of what's going on wherever they're sitting in space. So
wonderful. Thank you so much, Jake. Yeah, no, super helpful. I just wanted to remind anyone watching, if you have questions, please put them into the chat. I did see one person chat no sound. I'm assuming, I know we've got some viewers out there that people are hearing, but if somebody could just put in a chat that they're able to hear, that would be refreshing. But again, great demo, Jake. And yeah, I know we're talking a lot about Microsoft Whiteboard. This is one of these kind of big overarching themes and tools that can span across rooms and desktop client and mobile device, and really help us, create this collaborative experiences to support ideation, brainstorming, all these things that we're talking about today. So Jake, I thought it'd be helpful to take us through kind of a real world example. So what I'm going to do is to share a Teams meeting that we are in with Microsoft Whiteboard, and thought we'd go through kind of a real world example of how Whiteboard can be used, how it works. You could give us a little bit of just Whiteboard in general, but we also can talk about kind of this real world scenario with Whiteboard. And I love this scenario because we're talking specifically about what devices do we put in what rooms based on the 3 scenarios that we're talking about today.
Yeah. So, like you're saying, Ryan, we actually had a whiteboard set up ahead of time so we could kind of show the beauty of this with all of us. As you can see, looking up in the top right corner, we can see all the folks that are joining. So myself, Ryan, Brent, and Jimmy, all joined in here. Well, yeah, obviously you get all the magic of the inking that is available, on Whiteboard, but you also get the benefit of being able to pull in, additional components into your room.
I get the corner office. I'm going to put the corner office right there. Yeah. And I get the 85-inch hub in there.
Yeah. So we have this preloaded with some additional images. So pull in images of some of the devices we were talking about before, some Surface Hubs and some Teams rooms on Android boards that can all be pulled in, along with some elements of some labels. So pulling that in so we can kind of keep track of what's in there, and then we're let everybody kind of go with where they want to put things. So things like reactions can be added to this. So if we see something in that design that we really like, give that a big old thumbs up for the design as we kind of talk through this, and all of us spread out all over the country working on this and putting it together, this design for our what we're doing here. All saved in OneDrive like we talked about before. So it's something, as you saw, we have this preloaded, something we can jump back into anytime as we go through this. I don't actually have one loaded right now, but we have some additional options here as well. There have been new additions to features that can be added. So upload things like a video you want to play back for everyone else, loop components, more and more. So if you haven't used Microsoft.
We just lose Jake audio?
But Ryan, I think we did, but
so
I just want to. Yeah, I just want to point out how unbelievably powerful this sort of thing is. And while you're watching this, we're all on that meeting, and you can see all of our icons and all of our things. Now, you can do templates. You can do so much with this whiteboard that advances into a digital whiteboard world far beyond what you can do on an analog whiteboard. So as we talk about being able to actually outfit spaces with the Microsoft Teams rooms and the touch technology, remember, this unified whiteboard experience is just that. It's unified. We're on our desktops, on our Teams clients, but this also extends to Microsoft Teams rooms. This also extends to Surface Hubs. This also extends to those Android boards. So how are you using these rooms? What are you actually challenged with inside of the rooms for the technology? And isn't this a great opportunity to sort of bring in that ideation that happens when you're brainstorming? When you have all these rooms, look at all the technology, look at all the different icons that are going around, all the different people that can add to this and bring in their ideas while we're collaborating on a single whiteboard experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we're talking about, you can see, there's templates for brainstorming and problem solving, design and research, and project planning and strategy and workshops and learning. And these are all the things that are way up at the top of the list that folks are saying are harder in hybrid, right? These are harder things to do. And again, I would argue that you need this digital experience even when we're all together. I certainly don't like writing on an analog whiteboard and coming back, after lunch and finding it either not there or we went to a different room. And so there's, all of this kind of goodness and power and beauty. But this went from, important pre-pandemic and pre-hybrid to just ultra critical. Like, we need tools like this, or we're going to suffer in terms of creativity and ideation. And yeah, the fact that this kind of spans across all of these experiences, our folks sitting in shared spaces, which is a lot of where they're going. We know this when people are coming back to the office in a hybrid world, they're coming back to get together as a group, and they're sitting in a shared space and they're collaborating and they're getting that energy and goodness that only comes when, through that human connection when we get together. And so equipping our spaces is a big piece of this. If you want people to come back and to have meaningful experiences in those couple of days that they're going to be in the office, you need to be leveraging tools like this, both the hardware devices we're talking about, and within teams, you need to be looking at deploying things like Whiteboard as a tool that people can be using, not just when they're in the rooms, but in any of their teams meetings, right?
It is.
Good stuff. All right. So thank you, Jake. Fun. So we're talking a lot about different Teams room configurations. This can be confusing, as we shared. And let me just take a moment, because I'm going to change what we're sharing to a different screen. And great. So I wanted to highlight a tool that we developed here at unifiedcommunications.com, specifically to help organizations create custom configurations around Teams rooms, to manage standards, and to easily procure those systems. The example that I'm going to show today is based on Microsoft internal room standards, what Microsoft is doing in their own facilities, but this can easily be customized to create unique standards for any organization. So we call this Meeting Room Configurator Tool, or MRC. And so I'm going to take you through kind of a brief demo. And I'm really, this is our last kind of change in demo, and the demo, the universe is holding up well for us to date, so far. So let me take you through this. So the first thing that we're looking at is size of space. And again, this is coming from Microsoft standards. So it's looking both at capacity and size. And so for this example, I'm going to pick a medium-sized space. And the next is the experience that we're talking about today. Do we want this to be something like, you can see that flex space, which is a lot like a lot of the images that we looked at when we talked about space design, something that's designed for us, comfortable, but we want to get up and create. We also talked about this concept of a signature room, where we have Teams room and Surface Hub together. So let's say that's what I'm going for. I want this kind of hybrid optimized, best of both worlds type space. So that's what I'm going to select. We've selected room size. We've selected the kind of experience that we're going for. What kind of display are we looking for? Well, I know I want a Surface Hub in this room, and I also want a Teams room. I'd like to have a big, what are these ultra wide 21:9 screens in the front. I also have the option to do something like a projector, formatted projector, but I'm going to take a 21:9. We're going to take this Jupiter 105-inch 21:9 display for this example. And then I get to choice in this one. Let's say I want to do a 50-inch, Surface Hub, and also Teams panels. We haven't talked a lot about this, but it's a big part of the overall experience. There's a lot that a panel can do these days beyond just scheduling and showing me meetings, and we could have a whole session just on Teams panels, but I'm going to pick a Teams panel. And then in this tool, if there's something specific I'm trying to ideation is my core goal, for this. And so it's going to take us in again, specifically to a Microsoft standard for this room. And so we can see the base room system and the core compute that goes with it. We can see that in this room, we have a Jabra Panicast 50 as our audio and video device. There's also a Surface Hub 50-inch, and things like warranty and stand. And if I decided I wanted to wall mount, or if I want the battery, I can make those types of choices here. Here's the scheduling panel we said we wanted. We can also see that it's not just the display. We're really trying to think about a full kit, everything that you need to deploy this room. So if I expand the display, you can see it's the mounting hardware and the cables and every little small accessory that you need, so that you're not running out to buy things in addition to the core kit. Content camera, if we did have an analog whiteboard, Jimmy, you kind of mentioned this, that we're trying to get away from analog whiteboards, but certainly if we have one, we need some ability for people to be able to see on the far side in a good way. So that would be optional. I'm not going to do it for this room. And then there's all these little tables and accessories that we need. So in addition to being able to customize and design these rooms through Meeting Room Configurator, I can also save these designs. So I'm going to call this medium hybrid Jimmy's fave. All right, that's the name of this design. And that takes us into a dashboard where I can see my standards. I could purchase them, but I also have the ability to add these to projects, to create projects. I created a Seattle project with specific locations, but I can create projects, I can create locations. Within these locations, I can create specific rooms, and within those rooms, I can assign specific configurations to the rooms, and then I can go and I can actually purchase this entire project in one place. So I know we're rolling fast through this, but there is a lot of logic and power on the back end, and the idea behind Meeting Room Configurator is to allow an organization to create some standards, to be able to give some discretion, let's say around those standards, to what may be a particular organization or location. If they got some budget, they want to decide whether they're doing the extra big display or the standard display. That those, you could allow that type of choice within the framework of standards, but a place to manage it as well and to keep track of our projects. And to help kind of parse through, again, this kind of complicated world where you got a lot of choices. We can help kind of rein this in specifically for for a customer. All right, so we'll post a link to the Meeting Room Configurator tool, and you can reach out to us if you've got interest in a deeper demo around it. So it is Q&A time. I'm not seeing questions in the Q&A at this moment, but I just wanted to give another option for anyone watching. If we haven't answered all your questions, if we have, great, but feel free to chat in a question. We'll just wait for a moment or two. If not, you can continue to put questions in on this chat. We'll continue to answer them even after we end the live event.
If you want to see a demo of anything, we got it all set up ready to go. We can jump back.
You got it. We got a little echo going somewhere.
Well, while we're waiting for that, I just want to thank you for inviting me to be a part of this, to be on this esteemed panel. Good group of folks here, and love working with Unified Communications and the team there. And of course, anytime I can be on the same screen as Jimmy, it's a good day, right?
Yes, thank you for thank you for the partnership, Ryan, and the everyone at Unified Communications. It's great to have these sort of tools and have these sort of panels where we can talk about some of the exciting stuff that we're all working on. That configurator, great tool, great job on that tool to make it easy for our shared customers to actually come in, organize everything that they need, and then one place to actually purchase everything as well.
Agree. Couldn't agree more. So I'm going to say we will take any questions that come in the chat moving forward. And so I know there's folks that are watching this live. We're also, there's going to be opportunity. This is automatically recorded in LinkedIn. And so this can be shared afterward with anyone from your teams that didn't get a chance to see this. And so you can continue to use that thread on the comments section on LinkedIn for any questions. I guess, for all of you watching, live or on the replay, the team here at unifiedcommunications.com, we love these conversations. We live for this kind of thing. We're offering a complimentary device strategy session, focused specifically on adding ideation, whiteboard, and collaboration to Teams rooms. That session would be led by a device strategist, someone like me or Jake from our team. We're going to post a link into the comments section if you want to sign up. And the first person that signs up from a qualified organization and that goes through our session is going to win a really awesome product. So big thanks to HP Poly for a Voyager Focus 2 team certified headset. That again was going to go to the first person who signs up for a strategy session, goes through that session. We will send you a device at the end. So again, big thanks to HP Poly for sponsoring the giveaway. And with that, I want to say thanks, Brent, Jimmy, Jake. This is always fun. I love these things. I look forward to them. And particularly with you guys, we were so passionate about this subject as we are, and I think that comes through every time we do these events. And so, yeah, a big thanks to you guys, and we can call this one a wrap.
Thanks, everyone.
It was great to be
Thanks
here.
a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.